Hi, I'm Lindley, welcome back. Let's crack on with great content for Business Blog 5, Media Training, the sequel. Now this is part 2 of the Media Training Guide just for you. You can find out much more about our wider work, what we do, which global brands choose Greenscreen for their content creation and consultancy, and why on earth I'm here to give you the inside track on award-winning content creation and subjects such as media training. But in this episode, we're following on with the slightly more practical side of appearing on your own or the wider media. Now, we covered quite a lot of core principles in the last one. Now it's time to show you how to do it in the real world. Now, there are 3 examples, all fictional companies if they're mentioned, and a range of stories that you might recognize, but in quite different situations. First of all, as an advisor in a company update or to the media. Secondly, responding to a news story or contributing to a timely issue through the media. Thirdly, reaching out to your customers in the wider world in a crisis. Now you can get in touch on any of these channels through Facebook, Twitter, the website, or you can simply email hello@greenscreen.london with any questions or any issues coming out of this blog. So let's get cracking. Let's get into the scenario 1 when you're pushing out content as an advisor, quite a common thing to do. Firstly, a good plan for any media appearance is to create 3 to 5 key points, key statements or areas that you want to cover. But then, importantly, have a corresponding 3 to 5 practical examples of how those key points work in your back pocket. That brings your points to life. It really works. I'd recommend that as a very simple starting point. Now, as an advisor, you're already in a very good position to be heard. People want to listen to your advice. So the job here is to make sure your advice does 2 things. First of all, give an insight into the wider issues being discussed. And second, update people with useful, actionable information about how they can respond. Very practical. So straight into your prep, and you will need 2. Firstly, look at the story or the issue as a whole, as well as what you're doing in this area. Then be an advisor. Go into how they can navigate the issues. These are all really fundamental issues for the audience, and talking about them makes you a trusted advisor. Just one example, but you get the idea. Next, we're into the comfort zone. You can now talk about what you're doing as part of the change you've already mentioned, specific advice for your customers, and ways that they can get ahead of the curve. Are you maintaining customer service and personal service some other way at your organization? This is your chance, in brief, to show people that you're covering the bases that they want you to. Okay, scenario 2. This is quite dreaded by a lot of people. Responding to a news or industry story, perhaps doing your own content, but through the media. Being interviewed live or in a pre-recorded piece. Now, here you have a journalist or presenter in the mix. So let's deal with that first. It can be the focus or concern for many people. I have a confession. I used to be one of them, asking tough questions day in, day out. And there really isn't a story that I haven't covered in detail, particularly in consumer news. And that's why organizations ask me and my team to advise them. Every good journalist wants the facts. That's number 1. Clear, simple, accurate facts about the story. Experienced reporters can spot an economy of truth or a lie from a mile away. So bear in mind that your job is to make sure that the audience has a complete picture, as complete as possible, about what's happening, and it's all for the audience. They will really appreciate you for it, for giving them clear, accurate information. We'll get into the mechanics of tough questions in the next scenario on dealing with a crisis, but for now, don't worry too much about tough questions. In most interviews, you only face those if you're not answering questions at all. The prep for a standard interview is about getting a full and clear picture of the story, your part in it, and offering advice, as you did in the first scenario. So that's the starting point. In any interview, keep your answers simple, to the point, and leave room to respond. Now you can prepare all of that in advance. Then you can take the conversation and questions in your stride. If you get the key points right, then you can talk. If you clam up and say nothing, it's ammunition to dig deeper. Now, in terms of delivery, the best interviewees are engaging, helpful, and pithy in their answers. They're dynamic, striking up a conversation, even if it involves a serious line of questioning. That makes for much more interesting, enlightening interviews for the journalist and shows that you are willing to answer the tough questions. Finally, let's look at the third scenario, dealing with a media appearance during a crisis. Now here, the audience initially needs to hear absolutely crucial information as the story evolves. Later, there'll be questions to answer about how this could have happened and whether the response was good enough. Now there are practical issues that you'll need to deal with, for example being doorstepped by the media. And this can often be handled in news training to give a quick response under pressure. It takes a bit of training, but be careful who you choose for that. You don't need PR providers, even though they do carry out most crisis communications training. What you really need is experts who've been on the other side of the camera. More on that in the next blog, but think about your sourcing. Okay, so here's how you can prep and deliver a proper crisis comms response on time, on message from the word go. Now, this time you're under pressure. Reporters and presenters will be taking a tough line, looking for exclusives. They'll push you for them. But now, more than ever, you have to get your story straight. What's happened? How much do you know? How much can you let customers and the wider world know right now? Fundamental. Sadly, crisis comms is often based around that one-line response. Say little, get out of there. And sometimes that's all you can do, but you still have to give a response. So how can you make sure that you're prepared and that your response is still as full as possible, paying respect to the viewers, and comes across in the right way? Well, first of all, legal issues aside, and every scenario like this has its own, you can always give an update. It could be short, but as long as you make sure that all of your communications channels are connected. And if you can't say much now, make sure that the small bites of information keep coming as part of an integrated plan of response. Your customers deserve to know as much as possible, so say that. We're telling you what we can. This is what we know has happened right now. This is what we're working on, and we want to keep our customers, you, up to date, so I'll be back to tell you much more when we have it. And you can keep up to date with all of our work and rectifying the issues as we go on the website and through our other points of contact, for example, Twitter. Really important. You can damage your reputation almost instantly if you say nothing. It raises more questions than it answers, particularly among journalists. So, crucially, in modern crisis communications, don't do it the old-fashioned way, with no information or a press statement given slowly. You can obviously talk to us, hello@greenscreen.london. You can see what we've done. See you next time when we'll polish your performance, look at what your media training providers should be doing for you, and I'll also sum up all of this in the media training blogs 1 and 2. Okay, until then, take care. Looking forward to seeing you next time.